Hey Internet, welcome to another episode of Coffee Break. Of course, my name is Scott Ford from Mr. Ford's class, and in this one, I want to talk about the fun I had getting a username and password from a government agency. Alright, well, welcome back. I'm not going to name the agency that this applied to, mainly because I don't want lawyers coming after me. But let me tell you a little story. Grab your coffee, sit back, and enjoy the story from Mr. Ford. All right, a few years ago, I would say back in 2009, I was hired by a certain government agency that required certain levels of background checking. And so there was no surprise when you work for this government agency, there's no surprise when you show up to work. They have specific onboarding dates, and so you report, you go to the DC version, the headquarters in DC, and they put you through the onboarding, and then you go back to your assigned area, and that's where you're going to work. And so I went through my onboarding at this unknown, unnamed government agency, and went back to my home area, went back to the area I was going to work. And so I was being led around the campus, as it were, of the government agency location, and I was introduced to things, got to see things, and I ran to the security officer. And the security officer introduced himself as, Bob KMA. And I'm, Bob KMA. Now, if you work for the government, you're laughing at this point in time because you know what KMA stands for. So I'm like, what's K? I'm Scott Ford, MED, Masters of Education. Like, what does KMA stands for? So I asked the guy who was leading me, and I go, what's KMA? And he goes, kiss my ass. I'm like, I'm sorry, what? He goes, KMA stands for kiss my ass. I'm like, what? This is new to me. He goes, when a federal government employee, reaches a certain point in their career where they can retire at any point in time, they are called KMA, which means if I don't want to do something, KMA, kiss my ass, what are you going to do? Fire me? I can quit anytime. I got full benefits. So that was kind of new to me. I mean, having been in education, I've never met a teacher say, hello, I am Miss Smith, KMA. It doesn't happen, okay? So that was a security officer. That was the guy who was responsible for getting me my username and password for the computers. So I went on my day and got back finally to my cubicle, and I spent the rest of the day reading information that I was supposed to read as far as, what I was supposed to do, what the job entails, procedures, blah, blah, blah. So that was day one. Day two comes by, and I finished reading. It was a lot of material. Finished reading off the binder of information. Still no user access or password. Now keep in mind, they knew I was going to report to work about a month before I showed up because, again, specific dates for onboarding. So about a month before they knew I was going to be there. And second day comes by, nothing going on, just reading my stuff. Third day happens. What else you got to read? Fourth day happens. Fifth day happens. I've read everything so far. And it was funny because when I was being walked around, when I was being shown my cubicle, I noticed all these federal government employees with games at their desk and books at their desk and magazines and puzzle. I mean, it was funny because I'm looking at this going, this is my tax money at work. You guys shouldn't be playing games at your cube. I mean, get to work. My tax money paying this. Don't be reading, a Stephen King novel. Get to work. So the first week goes by. I still don't have my username. Still don't have my password. Second week hits, and over the weekend I wound up buying a book. A book specifically about the history of this government agency that I was working for. And again, no username and password. So I'm reading. It's a thick book. Okay. So 3 days go by. All you can do for 8 hours. You can't sleep. You have to be there. I wound up reading this entire book. Like by Wednesday, I'm done with the book. Again, getting bored out of my mind. We send a fax to the guy. The guy is like across the street. He's maybe a mile walk away from where I'm at. So we're sending this guy a fax requesting, again, a username and password. So second week goes by, nothing. Third week hits, still nothing. I'm starting to get a little bonkers here. I mean, I am very much a type A personality, and I have to get stuff done. I want to do things. I got to do things. I can't just sit on my butt and do nothing. It's not me. And so the fourth week hits, and still nothing. No username, no password. I can't do anything. I'm at a total work stoppage. So 1 month goes by. I am a GS-12. I am making about $74,000, $75,000 per year up in the North Virginia, D.C. area. Okay, your tax money at work for me to do nothing and sit on my butt. So the second month begins, the first week of the second month, and at this point in time, I have taken. If you're a Star Trek fan, you might be familiar with the show Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine, I want to say, had 7, 8 seasons. They had a lot of seasons. Okay, Deep Space Nine lasted for quite some time, and I wound up putting the entire series on my iPod. And now I'm at work, earbuds in, watching Deep Space Nine on my iPod, and still waiting for username and password. So it's like now every week we send this guy a fax, okay, over across the street, a mile away. We're sending this guy a fax once a week going, hey, he needs a username, he needs a password. So I wound up finishing off the entire series of Deep Space Nine, the entire series. Third week of the second month, still nothing. At this point in time, now I'm putting movies on my iPod and I'm watching movies, making $75,000 a year, GS-12, doing nothing productive. Third week hits. The third week hits. I'm bored out of my mind. I can't take it anymore, and nothing. And I'm going absolutely stir crazy. We're faxing this guy once a week. Hey, he needs a username. He needs a password. He can't get any work done. So finally, I'm on my way to work, and I've had it. I'm done. I am so over this. So I stop by Dunkin Donuts on the way to work, and I pick up a dozen donuts. And so I drive in, and I don't report to my cube. First thing I do is I go to the security office. I find Bob, the security officer, KMA, and I say, hey, how you doing? And he goes, ooh, are those donuts? I said, yes, they're donuts. Would you care for a donut? He goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, I'll give you the entire dozen donuts if you give me my username and my password, please. So he goes, what's your name again? I'm like, Scott Ford. He goes, oh, let me. He has a stack of papers on his desk. I'm not making this up. You can't make this up. Goes to the stack of papers. He goes, oh, here you are. Boom, you're in. Three months of sitting on my butt, doing nothing but watching television and reading books. And this guy gets me into the system in less than 5 minutes for a dozen donuts. Yeah. So I go back to my cube, and I log into my computer, and woohoo, I'm in my computer. It's 2009, by the way, and Windows 2000 boots up. Love me some federal government. And the supervisor comes by, and she goes, oh, you got your username and password. I'm like, yeah, I brought the guy a box of donuts. And she goes, what'd you do? I go, I bought the guy a dozen donuts to get my username and password. She goes, you bypassed the chain of command? Keep in mind, folks, 3 months of faxing this guy every week. Funny story is she tried to write me up. HR kicked it back and said, you can't write him up for doing this. Why didn't you bring the guy a box of donuts? Anyhow, if there's any question about why I left DC and moved back to Texas, that's one of many stories. So, username and password back for the federal government. Now you know why I am like, as far as anything with the federal government. So, that's it for now. Hopefully you enjoyed my little story. And tune in next week when we'll talk about something completely different. Until then, goodbye for now.